For today, we are going to be working with the elements of fire. So firstly, actually, when I just wanted to put in a caveat that when I talk about higher and lower frequencies, it doesn't mean worse and better. It's not a linear scale. What I'm referring to is the movement of the molecules, so the actual wavelength. So when we're looking at things that are more slowly moving, we say it has a lower vibrational frequency, and so it can take form. So things like earth and water. And then as the molecules start to speed up, we move more into the heat from the fire, and then also into the air as well. And then as the molecules start to move even more quickly, the energy still exists, but they're beyond the capacity of our usual vision to be able to perceive. And so, yeah, it's just important to know it's not worse or better when we're talking about different range frequencies from that perspective. I'm just talking about the actual movement of those molecules. And so, as we move from the energy of the earth, which is very much about that feeling part of something, feeling that connection to this incarnation, feeling that we are of this earth at this particular time while we are here. And then moving through to the water, which is all about our close personal relationships and how we interact with those on an emotional level. It very much affects our waters, and then we can use the waters as well in those instances to help us to cleanse and clear some of those older patterns. And so now we're moving into the fires of transformation. And so as we move into that fiery energy, I'll just get you for a moment to just bring into your mind's eye a fire. So a fire that you might have seen before burning, like a campfire or a beautiful fireplace. Just in your mind's eye, just visualize a fire. And as you connect in with its energy, just noticing any of the qualities of the fire. So what sort of qualities can you notice of this fire element? As in the last video, we connected in with the earth and water, and they feel very different. And so as does the fire. The fire feels very different to the earth and the water. And so if you just wanted to type in the chat box any thoughts or any impressions or perceptions that you have of the fire, remembering there's no right or wrong answers. There is only what we derive from our experience. Good, yeah. So so fire is very moving and flickering. And so it's that really vital energy. It's got a lot more strength and power. It motivates. And so, it can be really useful. Yeah, so it's upward moving, and it's that really more quick type of movement than the flow. So we think of water as kind of that flowy movement, where the fire is very much more sort of sporadic and energetic. And so, if we are going through periods of where we are feeling quite tired and lethargic, can't be bothered doing things, when we work with the fire element, it helps us to be able to not only become more energized, but it does this through helping us to be able to transform the density, so the patterns of behavior or beliefs that are actually keeping us energeticless. So things that are actually draining our energy. And so the fire helps us to be able to identify with that and to be able to transform that to bring back a normal amount of vitality. So the solar plexus is the seat of our fire. So that fire in the belly, that old saying that, people who are highly motivated, they have a fire in the belly. And this is like literally, interestingly, what is the energy of the fire. When we have a fire that is a bit deficient, for whatever reason, it will often affect digestion as well, because the power of the fire is for transformation, not only of our mental and emotional things, it's also for our physical nourishment too. So the fire in the belly is what is needed to transform the food that we eat into the nutrients that the body actually uses. And so, you know, that solar plexus is that real sense of self as well. It's the seat of our sense of self. And so, you know, if we are carrying around a lot of negative belief patterns and untruths about ourself and about our worth, it can cause a restriction and constriction within the solar plexus area, which will then quite often go on to affect the digestion as well. And, you know, we think of all of the digestive issues that are out there at the moment. And it very much aligns, and I see it a lot in practice with clients, that when there is a lot of that negative self-talk, there is usually problems with digestion, because the digestion is not just physical digestion, but when we take it through to that metaphysics, it's about how we digest life, how we're digesting the life around us. Are we feeling like we are participating in the way that we want to in life, or are we preventing ourselves from doing that by holding doubts and fears around our own capabilities to be able to participate, you know, in a way that, you know, that we truly desire? And so then quite often there's a lot of drawing back of energy as well, which then comes to cause a deficiency in this particular area. Like when we hold different thought forms, and it's well documented in a lot of different traditional medicine, it will hold energetic density. And so that's where there isn't a smooth flow of energy. The energy can't move properly when we're holding on to lower frequency thought forms. And so lower frequency thought forms are those of things like doubt, fear, guilt, you know, all of those types of things do hold a lower frequency. And what is aware through all traditional medicine is that specific thought forms or frequencies will affect different areas of the body as well. And so all of this lack of self-esteem or self-worth very much restricts energy flow through the solar plexus, which is that digestive area. And so, you know, if there are problems with digestion, we can often think about, you know, what's happening in and around us that may be impeding the flow of energy, you know, through that particular space. And, you know, so how we feel about ourselves is such an important, it's such an important part of your personal development, because, you know, if we don't feel good about ourselves, we're not holding the energy within our energy field to allow others to feel good about us either. If we're not holding our self-worth, it's not in our energetic code. And so it's very difficult for people outside of us to be able to see our worth as well. Because if we don't see it, how can other people see it? And this is one of the universal laws of energy. And so, you know, as a lot of the time, you know, we can fall into, you know, there's the victim and the bully power play. And a lot of the time that's because of energetic coding. You know, if we have these beliefs that the world is always against us, we're holding that within our energetic code. And so it attracts people who have that need to gain their own power from taking it from other people. And again, that's from lowered self-worth as well, that they feel like they need to keep that bully persona to protect a very soft internal. So it's the same patterns, but it's expressed differently. So it's an imbalance of this fire element. So when we talk about the power of fire, the power is in balance. And so it's not having power over people, but it's more being able to stand in your own power enough to be able to allow others to contribute their genius, to contribute what they have to offer to any given situation. So to be able to hold everyone in that same level of power is this power of a balanced fire element. Let's go on a journey, shall we? So we're going to go on a little guided meditation journey to connect in more deeply with the energy of the fire. And so if you are safe to do so, closing down your eyes, making yourself comfortable. And then once you're comfortable, starting to bring your awareness onto your breath. And as you connect in with your breath, just feeling the in-breath and feeling your out-breath. And just allowing that connection with the breath to help to anchor you into this moment. As we connect with the breath, it also helps to take the busyness out of the mind. And so just being with that breath, riding those waves as you're breathing in and as you're breathing out. You might start to slow down the breath as well, allowing your system to know that it is safe for you to relax and to be more fully within this journey process. Now, I would like for you to imagine that there's a doorway. Seeing the colour, the size and the shape of the door. And you knock on the door, indicating your intention to enter. And as you do, the door opens and you step through. And you find yourself on a pathway. You're on a pathway leading up a mountain. And just taking a moment to notice what your pathway looks like. What the mountain looks like. Is it densely covered with trees? Or maybe it's quite sparse. Maybe it's somewhere in between. Just observing whatever you can about your pathway and your mountain. Maybe what the weather's like. And how it feels. Maybe there's a particular scent in the air. Maybe you can hear some sounds. And as you continue to wind your way up the path, you know that you are seeking a wise old sage that sits in a cave at the top of this mountain. The pathway starts to become quite rugged, but you are determined to get there. Climbing over boulders. And you finally make it to the entrance of the cave. And you notice a fire burning on the inside. And as you take a few more steps into the cave, you notice the sage seated at the fire, deep in a trance. You move closer and take a seat down at the fire. And you wait for this sage to acknowledge you. And as you gaze into the fire, you also start to fall into a trance. your focus starts to turn within, and you connect with your fire within, seeing what you can notice about that, just allowing it to be however it is, without judgment. And now, taking a moment to consider what your passions are. Fanning those flames with your passions in life. What is it that motivates you? What is it that helps you to feel that fire? What are your gifts that come out of these passions? What are your gifts? What are some other gifts that you offer to the world? Noticing any restrictions and maybe asking yourself again, what gifts do I have to offer the world? And allow yourself to receive that. We all have gifts to share. We need only acknowledge. Now, as you sit in your flame, allowing yourself to really feel into that. Feel into all of this. Feel into your energy and your power. Now, as you're still seated in the cave, you start to open your eyes and you notice that you were there alone. And then you realize that that sage you were seeking is actually you. You have the capacity to know your own answers. You have your own source of wisdom. And in that moment, you take a really nice long, deep breath in and hold, allowing that integration of that wisdom, that deeper truth that you already possess. As you take another nice long deep breath in, you step up from the fire and start to exit the cave. You start to make your way back down the path, back down the mountain. And with each step, taking with you the knowing of your gifts, your passions. And then as you take another nice long deep breath in, and as you release it out, starting to become aware of yourself back in your seat, starting to bring some gentle movement back. And as you take one more nice long deep breath in, and as you breathe out, relaxing into yourself and feel that power flowing through you as you say yes to yourself and yes to walking into a life that you desire. And taking your time then to bring yourself back into the moment, Opening up your eyes, and if you have your journal there, just taking a few moments to make some notes of your gifts and anything else that came up for you during that process.